For this project, I conducted my career research under an HR scope and focused my interview efforts towards women in power. That person actually ended up being my mom. I had an interview scheduled with Mary Powell, CEO of Green Mountain Power in Vermont, but she became quickly unavailable due to a biking accident in New York City with her husband. She is okay. She's actually a family friend of mine, so it was pretty cool growing up having the opportunity to shadow her success and learn from her struggles. However, given the unfortunate timing of things, I wasn't able to pick her brain on this specific topic. Moving right into my job searches, my first interest is a human resources manager. A bachelor's degree is the minimum education requirement, and the role requires at least 5 years of background experience. Some key factors of the job include working knowledge of federal, state, employee laws, curious problem solver and a smart learner, as well as analytical, able to understand and address various situations, must be able to effectively communicate with any stakeholder, whether from a sales associate to VP or even the CEO, strong writing and communication skills, the ability to work with a tight deadline and within constraints, in other words, able to handle a lot of pressure. As for the yearly income, normal rates come at about $56 an hour or $116,000 a year. Next, the compensation and benefits manager. A bachelor's degree is also the minimum requirement, and the role requires at least 5 years of background experience. Some key factors of experience for this job include partnering with the benefits services team, HR, consultants, and leadership teams to suggest changes, analyze performance, and ensure equitable and consistent compensation and benefit strategies that are aligned with the company's objectives. Review benefit plan renewals and propose any necessary plan designs changes to ensure effective and budget-sensitive benefit programs. Negotiate with benefits brokers to determine the best plans and rates for employee coverage. Leading communication in partnership with communications and design and strategy for open enrollment in both the U.S. and Canada. Managing the 401k plan, including planning quarterly meetings with the committee, as well as an ongoing employee communications, education programs, and vendor management with both the 401k vendor and investment advisors. The list goes on, but for the sake of your time and interest, I will continue with the monthly and yearly income, which sits at about $58 an hour and $122,000 a year. Very nice. Last but not least, a training and development manager who requires a bachelor's degree, and the minimum education level, can you guess, is 5 years, as the trend follows in the past two positions. A few highlighted factors may include oversee training and development staff, assess employees' needs for training, align training with the organization's goals, create and manage training budgets, update training programs to ensure that they are relevant, evaluate the effectiveness of training programs and the instructors. Their pay projects at about $54 an hour and $113,000 a year. Normally, coming right out of college, these goals seem pretty nearly impossible, although I have been fortunate enough to receive experience in the HR field since my freshman year of college. Collectively, I've had about 2 years of experience under my belt and working at my current job as a payroll specialist, as you can see in the background. I'm working from home remotely right now, but it is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. With the select group, these careers don't feel so out of reach. Currently, I'm working 50-hour weeks in effort towards accomplishing year-end requirements. This being my second week, I can say that it's been a little overwhelming, although I do love everything that I've done so far, and my everyday job involves processing job postings for the front office, assisting with spread calculations and adjustments, processing weekly timesheets, processing weekly payroll for multiple branches, run payroll reports to make sure everything is accurate, basically, assist in processing child support, medical support, insurance deductions, as well as unemployment claims. I verify corp-to-corp invoices as well as employment verifications. And finally, I process weekly new hires, terminated employees, and other paperwork that's kind of related to that. Some tasks that I have previous experience in, some of the other ones I was talking about, I've had experience in, but every company is different. They have different protocols and they use different softwares. So this is a lot to learn in a very short amount of time, but I do love it. Moving on to my interview. During the interview I conducted, I was exposed to prevailing insights that reflected the author Sheryl Sandberg and her Lean In theory. Lean In is her book. It states, when sitting at the table, choose to lean in and engage in the conversation rather than introduce yourself as an outside listener. She, as in my mom, spoke about her position as the COO of IT strategy and planning and of managing directors at State Street, how she got there, what her everyday tasks were, and basically her other job description. Before getting to those specifics, I want to share a few questions that I actually came up with just due to my specific interest. I asked, what advice would you pass on to others trying to achieve personal goals or professional fulfillment? As coincidental as this may sound, Sheryl Sandberg's motivating novel Lean In happens to be among her favorite reads. I wonder why. Her advice bespoke Sandberg's advice in Lean In. From her words, I quote, "Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Not only will you have a greater chance of being respected by your peers as a woman, but you will double as a confident speaker." This will be a confidence booster. Additionally, sit at the table, speak up, and never underestimate your abilities, especially as a woman. It also happens that your gender already puts you as a disadvantage in certain settings, so if you plan on having a voice in your position, it is expected of you to leave it all in the boardroom. If you claim to be strong, powerful, competent woman, prove it. And if most importantly, through thick and thin, be proud of who you are, own it. Another question I asked was, have you ever witnessed the tiara syndrome? Meaning that if you work hard and your results should be noticed more often than not, so a woman must advocate for herself like a man often does. As much as I'd like to admit I haven't, I certainly have at least once in my life, she says. Completely understanding her confession, I asked her to further explain. As vice president in the institution in her past job, she worked much harder than her male peers. She claimed to have put in twice the amount of work at a much faster pace or at least a much faster pace than most would expect of her. With this, she was taken for granted and left taking over work for other positions. While acting as a financial safety for the company, she was appreciated by more work and a bigger team to be responsible for. Not that she wasn't grateful for her boss's confidence in her abilities, but she was left doing double or triple the work while her male peers were being promoted over her. She explained to me feelings of disappointment and appreciation. In my final personal question, I asked if, at any point did she off-ramp from her career, why, and how does she feel about it now? After thinking for a few simple moments, her response was represented by a story. After working for her first big job within a procurement organization, she realized her skills would never be challenged further than that current situation. Unsatisfied, she went back to school, achieved her master's degree, and redirected her passion towards the IT field. After only a few years in the field, she was climbing through position over position. Her skills combined with listening and leadership strengths, she was overshining all competition. Still thankful for her decision back then, she grew comfortable challenging her abilities as a woman in the workplace. So quickly to recap, my mom is the COO of IT strategy and planning and of managing directors, and her job description comes as follows. She reports to the CIO of corporate, and this position is responsible for managing the global P&L process. She leads the corporate portfolio governance committee, governs all application lifestyles and rationalization programs or commitments. Additionally, she directs accountability for the corporate EPMO portfolios and the project management office. And she acts as the CIO in support of the corporate IT leadership team. Her job specifically demands facilitating strategy definitions, communication, planning, and tracking for corporate IT, She has to develop, maintain, and track corporate strategies, ensuring an alignment to business and enterprise IT strategies and priorities. She manages end-to-end P&L, application lifestyles and rational commitments, and portfolio management processes. Basically, she has to ensure that the value is defined and tracked. She has to implement a framework to ensure the portfolio is aligned globally across functions and maximized to drive value and alignment with strategic priorities. And finally, she has to own and empower the corporate EMPO and project office management an office management office to support the effective and efficient delivery of the corporate portfolio. When connecting my past and current experiences within HR, the topics that stick out to me from the book are groups and teams, which is chapter 7, working and understanding each other's diverse skills through cohesive communication, motivating behaviors, chapter 5, and understanding how your team works to their best abilities through rewards, benefits, or bonuses. In other words, what motivates your team best while remaining realistic within the corporation's guidelines. And finally, leadership, chapter 13, specifically talking about a positive use of power throughout your team rather than abusing the title and having your team turn against you. This project has helped me realize that with my past experience and my current job, I'm on track for accomplishing my career goals in one of the following positions, or in the positions I listed. Although now that I think of it, if I remain in my current field, which is again in the payroll, I do have the opportunity of making up to $115,000 a year, which would be at the top of my 3 choices. I have a lot of work to do, and I will most likely work towards a master's degree in the future, but I am very excited to see what I accomplish in the next few years within the HR field. Thanks.